Hey y'all. So I decided to come outside and make this video. And I still don't really know what I want to say or how I want to say it, but this story needs to be told. I decided to call it I Gotta Be Crazy Too, because I married a sicko 2 times. And when I say a sicko, I mean sicko, seriously. And like I said, I don't know where to begin, but first off, let me make a disclaimer. This is my story. This is a healing process for me to figure out how I've been operating out of desperation and depression and allowing certain people in my life that shouldn't have been there, and all of the bad choices I made, and how did I do this to myself. I had to forgive myself. I had to forgive the sicko, and I'm still battling depression and so many things in regard to this marriage. And the reason I say this marriage, because legally we are still married. Don't get me wrong. In my heart, in my spirit, in my mind, in everything about me, I'm divorced. I filed for divorce several times, and he just will not sign the papers. Maybe he's ready now. Hopefully after this he'll be ready. But when I think about it though, I don't even care if he does or not, because if something happens to him, God forbid, I don't wish anything to happen to him, but I would be entitled to whatever he has, because legally I'm still Mrs. Howard. Okay, now that that's out of the way, that's what I had to come clean about. Now, I don't want to be married to him. We have been apart for so many years. All it takes is a signature that I've given over and over. Okay. So, let me start from the beginning. Now, I don't know how long this story is going to be. I don't know what all's going to come out. The biggest thing is already out. I'm still Mrs. Howard on paper. That's it. So now, let me start by saying that we married the first time December 1st, 1990. My son I had him in July. And we never should have got married. If you ask him and if you ask me, we never should have gotten married. However, the way that I was raised, you just don't have kids out of wedlock. You don't shack with anybody. You don't just live with anybody. You don't supposed to have premarital sex and all of that. I was raised that way. So when I became pregnant, they were like, so when are y'all gonna get married? That was the furthest thing from my mind. I was okay with not being married. I really was. Because I never saw myself being just tied to one person for the rest of my life. I've always been focused on just living happily. And marriage to me always felt like bondage and like constraints, like I was not able to ever be my true self, myself, because I was with a person that was not mature enough emotionally, physically, mentally, just everything. He wasn't mature enough to handle everything that marriage involved. And I can say I wasn't either. I was 19 and he was 20. So we were kids. We were kids and we were thrust into this marriage because we thought it was the right thing to do. And I even said, I remember saying, okay, let me go back. Like I said, I don't know how all of this is going to come out. I don't know how, because of my ADHD, I know that I'm going to be going here, going there, but I'm trying to keep it chronological and I'm trying to keep it on track. So if y'all see me pausing or, looking up or doing anything other than telling the story, it's because I'm trying to figure out how I need to say what I've got to say and how it's gonna relate. Okay? Alright, so first off, let me just say that I don't hate him. I believe that with therapy, because it is really something wrong, and I'm not trying to be funny, I'm not trying to be malicious, I'm not trying to be, there's some underlying mental illness, and it's there, and it's just gone undiagnosed. I'm pretty sure all of the women that have been involved with him, and there are a lot that I know of only because I've been married to him. And I'm going to tell y'all about how I know, how I felt, and why I had to forgive myself. Okay, like I said, we were thrust into a marriage that was doomed from the start. We didn't really know love. I don't think he ever loved me, or though I didn't love him. Not the way And I still haven't known love like you're supposed to, the way I feel that love is. To me, love is not jealousy, it's not control, it's not angry, and it's not wishing bad things and degrading. That's not love to me, but that's what I experienced. And I'm not saying that it was all him, because we both were young. We both didn't know what we were doing, and we thought we were doing the right thing. So the first time we married, December 1st, 1990. And we had known each other since I was in 5th grade. He was in 6th grade. He was the very first boy that I kissed on the lips. Like, kissed. And we didn't do any tongues or anything like that. We really thought we were doing something good. When I tell you my lips used to hurt, because we just be kissing and kissing like we was just so in love. And we would always wait till nighttime. We were in the projects. My aunt lived across the walkway from his family. So that's how we met. Wherever my aunt lived, that's where we went to school, because she didn't work. And so we would always use her address wherever she moved to attend school, because my mom worked 2 and 3 jobs and she didn't want us to be at home by ourselves. All right, so we met as kids. He was my first person that I kissed, and I was very, like, I really thought he really cared about me. So even back then, I was always searching for love and something that I felt that I was missing. Because growing up in the South, I was born and raised in Birmingham, Alabama. So colorism is a big thing. It still is. People still use the term, oh, you cute to be so dark. Or, as a little kid, I was ridiculed about my hair. Oh, you nappy headed, you ugly, you black. I had a gap in my teeth, and I have crowns now that covers it, but it took me a long time to love myself and see myself as worthy of any type of love. I long for my dad. I miss my daddy. I look like my daddy. I really do. But people don't see him, didn't see him around. So they will always say I look just like my mama. But I favor my dad and his side of the family, because I used to see one of my aunts, my daddy's half sister, and she worked at this store. And when I looked at her, I saw myself, and she knew exactly who I was, and we just hugged, and I knew that was my auntie. So, okay, back to the sicko. Y'all. Okay, so we got married, but we knew each other, and we were friends. That's because you never know a person. You don't know what they're going through inside their homes. You don't know what kind of, trauma that they've experienced or anything like that when you're kids. And so I'm fast forwarding to how we started seeing each other again and how I got pregnant. Y'all know how I got pregnant and all of that stuff. So, okay, fast forward. I'm in the 12th grade. My daddy bought me a car, and I used to still, my aunt had passed away, and I used to still go visit my cousin that lived in the projects and some of my friends that still lived there. So I would go by there. So I saw him, and I was like, I've always thought he was cute. I really did. And he had grown up. He was looking good to me. Plain and simple. I've always found him to be an attractive person. And so when I saw him, I spoke. We exchanged numbers. I used to pick him up. We rode around in my car and all of that good stuff. But I didn't even think that he was so mentally unstable. Even though I would see the red flags, and I just laughed it off because I was like, he gotta be playing. You know how somebody would do something or say something and you feel like, oh, he gotta be playing. I know he ain't that crazy, But I remember I had a flashback from, now, like I said, we met when I was in the 5th grade. So I had a flashback, and I always had boys as friends. I had girlfriends, but I never been a girl's girl. Even though I believe in the girl code, I don't believe in sleeping with anybody's man or anything like that. I just always liked boys way better than I like girls. Always. My mama would call me fast, but that's because of I just was drawn to boys. I just loved hanging around them. I liked the way they smelled. I liked the way they acted. I liked everything about boys. And my oldest brother, I used to follow him. I just loved to be around him. I tried to do everything that he did. I got scars and stuff to show how I used to follow behind him, shoot marbles, climb fences, all of that stuff to be with my older brother. He's 5 years older than me, and I would call him brother. So I'm getting off of the story. So anyway, back to what I recalled. Okay, so like I said, I had a lot of boys as friends, and a lot of boys liked me, and I didn't like nobody. I really believed that I could just be friends with boys. I never had a reputation that I knew of. The sicko would try to make it seem like I was easy. I had sex with anybody and all of that stuff. But it's never been true. I'm 55 years old, and I can name everybody that I've slept with. I don't think he can do the same. So anyway, I remember one night, one of my friends, it was this boy in the neighborhood. We would talk on the phone, and I was always on punishment because my mom would say, she can't talk on the phone now. That's her problem. She talked too much. Anyway, we would talk on the phone and all of that. So we had, how people used to throw parties like little social and savings clubs and all of that stuff. They would have parties and stuff like that. And some boys used to like to walk you home and stuff like that. Now, this is like in the late 70s. Okay, y'all, I was born in 1970. Anyway, this one guy, he really liked me, and I thought we were friends. Period. That's it. So he walked me home from the party, and it was like in the middle of the little walkway in the projects, in front of. It was in between my auntie's house and the sicko's house. And I'm just saying house. Y'all know, apartment, project, the brickyard, whatever. They were right across from each other, but me and the guy who walked me home was standing in the middle. And he was like staring at us. I could see him in the corner of my eye, like through the curtains at their house. I could see him staring at us. And he always accused me of kissing this guy. He leaned in for the kiss, but we never kissed. And if we did, it wasn't memorable because I don't remember. And that's my honest take on it. But he would always bring that up and call me a liar and try to use that against me when I was just a kid at the time. I may have been 11 or 12 years old, okay? So then, fast forward. In that same time span, this is when I noticed, him. I had seen the signs, like what they call now red flags, but like I said, I ignored them. It's like I said, I've always had boys as friends, and everybody used to think I was so fast because if I'm sitting on the porch, a lot of boys would come over and just sit on the porch with me, and we'd be laughing and just sitting there, playing. We're kids. If they like me, I didn't care. I wasn't even thinking about them in that way. But people would talk and say, Carrie, so fast. She out there with all them boys on the porch with Carrie and blah, 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 and all of this stuff. And he would be, and it is sad to say, they would be like, look at him over there looking at us, just staring at us. And he'd be like tucked off like on the side, thinking that we couldn't see him staring at us. And like I said, I'm thinking, wow, he really likes me, because I had never ever I was mistaking being a stalker as somebody that really liked me. I had no idea. So, while I was pregnant, I experienced some of the worst things that could ever happen to me. When I should have counted my losses and ran and never looked back, I didn't, because of the simple fact is I grew up seeing domestic violence. I grew up seeing my dad better my mom. And though I would always say, ain't no man gonna beat on me, sometimes it, I would have rather that happen to me than the things that I'm about to tell y'all. So, I'm pregnant. I'm working full time. I have a great job. Now, I've always landed great jobs. And anyway, I found out late in my pregnancy that I was pregnant. I thought I was really sick. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I had bronchitis, and I was just sick, and I had fallen out at work, and I had to go to the emergency room, and that's when I learned that I was pregnant. And I remember calling my mama and telling her, Mama, guess what? She said, what? I said, I'm pregnant. And I was so scared. Even though I lived on my own, I was an adult, and, well, I was 19. I was still afraid of the judgment and the ridicule from my mom. But you know what my mama said, and I can't wait for y'all to see how me and my mom interact with each other. But anyway, she said, so what? I got the flu, and hung up in my face. So I was like, whew, that's over with. Okay, now, found out I was pregnant and all of that stuff. I had never contracted any type of venereal diseases until I was pregnant. I had never had any type of irritation down below, no type of odor, no type of anything until I was dealing with the sicko. I used to go to the health department for my checkups because even though I had a great job, I didn't have medical insurance. So I would have to go to the health department and use Medicaid. So, you know, when you go there, they do tests on you, you know, run your blood. So back then, you didn't get instant results or anything like that. They would send you a letter in the mail. I got 3 letters at one time telling me that I had gonorrhea, I had chlamydia, and I had trich. 3 different types of STDs, and I'm pregnant. And he was the only person that I did not use condoms with. Now, we started out using condoms, but somehow I let him talk me into not using them. And then that is what happened. I got pregnant and I had all of these STDs. I was so hurt. I was hurt because I'm thinking, how could this happen? I know he's not sleeping with nobody else. I know that he just loves me. And how? And I didn't tell anybody because I was so ashamed and I was so embarrassed. But my brother, my older brother that lived with me, saw the letters. He said, you don't get letters like that from the health department unless you got some. And I just told him, they probably got me mixed up with somebody else or something like that. I just didn't even want to face it. So I confronted the sicko. That's who he's going to be referred to as, the sicko, okay? So I confronted him about it. We weren't married yet, mind you. And I said I wasn't even going to use mind you because I don't even use that. But we weren't married. But I was pregnant. And I had 3 STDs. And I told him about it. And, of course, what did he do? Deny. So I told him, okay, if you don't go and do whatever they tell you you need to do, you will never ever touch me again. And I mean that. Okay, so he went and he got that taken care of. And y'all, I still married him. I'm gonna be done with this. This is just part 1. I'm just like, revisiting this is really, it's stressful, but it's necessary. So this is part 1 of I gotta be crazy too, because I married a sicko 2 times. See y'all next time.